So about my work with moldable tools, that started like in it started in 2010 really with my PhD, and the idea was to ask the question about how we can change the digital tools that change us. That was like the core question, and it was a PhD on design. So the idea is that you prototype to understand stuff. That's like the core epistemology of design. And I didn't know what to prototype to explore that question. Um, and uh, and I thought that there was like a property that was self-referentiality, the idea that you can describe a digital object inside itself. And if you improve self-referentiality inside the tools that the community use, you can explore a better way to let that community to change the tool that is changing the community. So instead of
just so
having,
I understand, when you say self-referentiality, what I understand by that is like in Squeak or Faro or GT, everything is written in itself, if you will. So there's no like versus the typical model might be maybe the software is written in C, but then you can do a plugin, but then that's written in Python or Lua or something like that. But it doesn't go like all the way down.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have like this like artifacts theory, there is like a theory that says that the difference between live things and non-live things is that the living things have a self-referentiality. So a living thing can create more living things and has a discourse of itself. And do you have the artifacts? And artifacts are not self-referential, are made by other stuff like living things. But in the case of digital objects, you can have like a bigger sense of self-referentiality. For example, let's say that you have a book that talks about the Amazon. So the book talks about the Amazon, except in the prologue. In the prologue, the book talks about itself. So you have like analog artifacts that have like this kind of low self-referentiality. But in the case of digital artifacts, you can have via this live coding, like higher levels of higher levels of self-referentiality. Because you not only have like the help or the documentation inside the digital tool, you can have also this continuum between source code and the executable environment. So my idea was to introduce those kinds of that kind of tools inside the community, and to see how we can change these tools. Because I come from a free software background, like a hacktivist, and the issue is that the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, embed context. You have like a lot of context put inside the infrastructure, and usually that means that we in the global south are using infrastructures that has the global north context embedded. So, for example, thinking about like a wiki engine, like MediaWiki, you have like all this incidental complexity that maybe is fine for a Wikipedia, so for something so big, but for most of the things that community is using is not. We don't need something so complex, and all the times there is a lot of invisible assumptions about context that and embedded in the infrastructure. For example, JIT. JIT is like, okay, that was created for the Linux kernel, but now it's used for everything.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you have this kind of workflow or not. It's like, okay, if you are a developer, you are using JIT. Except in the case of Fossil, for example, Fossil was created for SQLite, and you have like different contexts in different tools. And my idea was to use the fact that we in the global south don't have a lot of like technological background, like we don't have like this huge baggage, so we can like explore alternative futures by using alternative infrastructures. That was my core idea. And the idea of using tools that have like a bigger self-referentiality property. Like, for example, Web2Py is a web framework that you can like modify you create a site by running a web framework, and you start to modify the web framework to create the site, something like that. So I start to explore with this kind of technology. I had Squeak in my radar because of my master's. So in my thesis, I used Squeak, and I want to make this self-referential property more explicit in the artifacts in the community. So I create Graphoscopio because I think that data storytelling can create this kind of bridge computing cultures and other cultures like journalists or activists, or I don't know, people who is making environmental causes and stuff like that, because they need to tell stories that are supported by data, and they don't care about if this tool is I don't know, popular or is made with the most used language. They need to have a tool that allows them to express their thoughts and their concerns in that environment. So I start to use Faro because of that.
And it's interesting because what I was thinking of when you said we're talking about other non-programmer communities that need the power of programming, it brought me back to Squeak and the Dynabook idea of a programming language for children. And non-programmers, in a way, even like myself as a non-programmer of, let's say, Python, I don't know much about it, I'm a child coming to it. And so if you just need enough to do what you have to do, because one of the programmers were like reviled against Squeak because it looked like it was for children. But that's as a new person or a person that just needs to do what you have to do, that's almost exactly what you need. You don't really want to get down into the nitty gritty of having to have a full library of reference books like I had when I was doing the C language or C++, of all the different ways that you could get yourself in trouble and never be able to get out. So it's interesting. And would you consider yourself a programmer? It seems like you're a little bit that you use programming as a means to an end. Is that fair? What is your ultimate goal? And when you say the community, what specific community would you say you're a part of besides the Global South? Is there something more focused inside of there?
Yeah. We're in this hacker space, and that was my place for exploration of this question about reciprocal modification between digital tools and communities around them. And yes, I am a non-programmer. I don't consider myself as a programmer, because I use coding as a tool for something else. And for me, there is like a lot of, I don't know, like kind of dogma in a sense. In any culture, you have like the culture crystallized in a particular way. So the people is like used to do stuff in a particular way. So for example, in my case, because I did some undergraduate studies in informatics and mathematics, but those were more theoretical. So I don't have this culture of, I don't know, test-driven development, for example. For me, it's strange to start with a test. It's like really, really like programming like-minded. And in these communities, we start with stories, with questions, with pros. We don't start with a test. It's kind of strange. So I see myself kind of like an outsider, and the people who is in this hacker space is people that is gathered by this kind of question. So, for example, I am a founding member of the hacker space, but my fellow hackers are more usual programmers, like the classical programmers. So they use, I don't know, C or Python or PHP, and they saw Squeak and Smalltalk as alien. They don't understand what's the point. Why you need to use this kind of esoteric language for that. But when I start to make these workshops and to make these open calls, people from journalists or from hacktivists or from, I don't know, for example, health research or media research start to come. And they don't have this baggage about like no, I need to use Python or whatever. They were like really open-minded. And for me, it was easier to communicate the ideas behind this like mutual modification between artifacts and technologies in non-programmers communities, because most of the programmers communities has like a way of doing stuff, and they are used to that, and it's kind of the natural way to do stuff. So, for example, I have some kind of, I don't know, like how do you say, like a little fight about Hello World example, like why you start saying Hello World is kind of dumb.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, my take on that is that, as you said, there was so much accidental complexity historically that to get to Hello World, there was a gigantic gulf. One had to start, like installing compilers and this and that and command line things that you felt like you had gotten to the top of the mountain by the time you were able to do Hello World. Where now something like GT, you open it up and, Hello World is, you type Hello World and then Command G, and that's Hello World. So it's kind of stupid at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, for me it's like that, and also it's like I remember when I was like learning structural interpretation of computer programs. This classical book from MIT, and it doesn't start with hello world. It's like you start with programming as modeling, not programming as great, like saying hello, like greeting is like why. So for me, this kind of introduction is important because these programming cultures have like naturalized this kind of introductions and the way you access a language. But for me, I think that in the same tradition of Alan Kane and other people, programming is about cognition. It's about how you can understand the world, and cognition has a lot of roots. And in that case, I shared your idea of being a child. There is a lot of people, like for example Piaget and other um, cognitive scientists that say that they are like epistemologists. They want to understand how we understand the world, and because they cannot like travel in the past, they try to travel in the mind of a child. So for me, it's this kind of powerful idea that we need to explore even more, because we have like still this kind of cognitive strategies for approaching stuff that we don't understand, and we need to like travel this kind of path between being like a child in a topic to being fluent, and that is how do you incorporate language in yourself? How do you think about models of the world and start to express that in a specific medium like a language, particularly a computer language, but it could be like a spoken language also. So this idea of having these kind of tools inside the community start to create a particular group of people around this kind of question. So they were not my fellow hackers. They were not the classical programmers. For they, it was not interesting. And Squeak was, or small talk was like too much magical. They want to know like what is happening inside the, I don't know, sorting algorithm or something like that. But for the people of the community, they don't care.
Yeah,
so they
and
need
it's, I think one of the things too is I think the education, at least in the standard educational model in the U.S. that I'm familiar with, is at least 50 years out of date. When I was in college in the late 90s, they had us writing. One of the first things we did was they wanted us to write an operating system, a very basic, like a REPL operating system. And I think that just sets you off. It took me 10 years to recover from that, to recover my senses. It took me 5 years to even understand what a computer really was, based on that ridiculous. It'd be like if you were going to go into carpentry, and your very, very first thing was they took you to the factory to see how to make nails. It's interesting. I'm not saying it's not interesting, but as far as giving you a proper context for what it is that you're doing, it really is tangential at best, if not downright damaging. So I learned C and C++ in school in the late 90s, which was already, I don't know. I'm going to, not chronologically, but I would say 50 years behind the cutting edge at that point. And then I finally, I was very clear that there was something wrong with what they were teaching me. And I had a sense that it didn't have to be that way, but there was nobody talking about anything else, and I didn't know where to bring that. So I ended up, I wrote a very complex program in C++ for my parents, my family business, that did amazing things, except it had intractable memory problems and it would just segfault randomly. And I had no way. I had no idea how to debug it. It was just the complexity had gone beyond my capacity to sort it out. And so I took a real step back from programming, because to me that was like 6 months to a year of wasted work, because it was unusable. It was everything, all the pieces were there. The engineering behind it was like massive, but I just could not get it to work. And so I eventually found Ruby, which I found it kind of just opened my eyes to having something higher level and more dynamic. And then I accidentally, somebody who knows nothing about programming sent me Alan Kay's TED Talk, and I was blown away, because I knew that is what it spoke to what I sensed was possibly behind the whole enterprise, but I couldn't quite put it into my own words because I didn't have the knowledge or the background. And so I immersed myself in Squeak probably well over 10 years ago, if not closer to 15. And then went to Pharo for purely pragmatic reasons, because that's where the energy was. When I had a fix, the only way to get it actually, integrated was in Pharo, in my experience, or there was much less friction getting things integrated. So I could work, and there were enough people and enough energy where they were creating libraries that I needed. So, and I stuck there. So for me, Pharo and now GT it's certainly not perfect, but it is Pharo and then GT after that are orders of magnitude less in the way of what I want and need to do. So
it is my case.
And supported, and there's a critical mass of community that it's supported enough that I won't get into a dead end that I can't get myself out of and can't get help. So that's kind of what it is for me.
Yeah, I was thinking when I was hearing you that you need to be some kind of you have the classical path, and you need to be a deviant of that path if you want to encounter something like Pharo or Smalltalk. In my case, for example, in my university, I didn't have also those courses or something like that. You start to have this kind of feeling that that's not computing, but you don't know what it is.
Yes.
And you have this kind of sense that you need to look for something else. That was also my travel, kind of in a different sense, but has this idea of this is not computing. I need to look for something else, and I want to avoid that path of confusion and didn't not knowing about computing for real for other people. I think that if you are a journalist or a hacktivist or an environmentalist, people who is working on digital rights or rights of the land or something like that, you need to avoid this kind of, okay, let's print hello world because we need to manage our own memory. Why I need to talk about I don't know, rights and police brutality or something that they are working and they don't need to start with hello world. It's kind of strange.
And I'm not saying it's by design, but I think it has the effect of adding another caste to society, because now you have this programmer caste, which is almost this priesthood where they're the only ones that have the access and the abilities. And it really doesn't have to be that way. And I think it's so much closer to the Dynabook idea. I mean, the Dynabook for me was about anybody in a society would have the same kind of literacy that we expect people to have to be able to read a book and understand it and think critically about it, and maybe even write a critique of it. You're going to be able to do that with a computer. And so, I'm really excited about actually, maybe I can show you some of the stuff I'm working on. Okay.
Please, yeah.
It might be helpful. Okay. See if this works. All right. So do you see a GT image now?
Yeah, it's really small, the font. But
okay, hold on a second. So I think that since they recently added that scale factor thing, this will be a testament to how usable GT is if I can find out how to do this. Oh, this is like the noob way. Hold on, I got it. What I should do is go to Spotter and just type scale. See how to scale the UI. Here we go.
Oh, cool.
Okay, and now let's see if this works. Is that better? I can make it even bigger. Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
All right, good. All right.
Okay.
So for me, the thing you talked about modeling is key, and then one of the other big things is that there can't be any stovepiping. So I can't have even open source. I have Calibre for managing my book type things, my ebook type things, and I have GNU Cache for my accounting type things, but there's no way to connect the ebook that I bought in Calibre to the receipt for it in GNU Cache. So to me, that's unacceptable because my brain doesn't make distinctions like that all the accounting things are in one area of my brain and all the book type things are in another area of the brain. So what I'm looking at is how to have a basic model for the different things that are most important in my life, and then how to have those models talk seamlessly. So this is an address book model. And it's actually, there was some good stuff built into GT. It was made as a toy, but they actually put some powerful stuff in there. So I based it off of there out of pure laziness. But this shows some interesting things about GT. So here I have an example address book. It has Dumbledore in there, Nassim Taleb, and so we should be able to get an inspector on that. And here's our address book with our 2 people. So now with one interesting thing about Spotter, so we have, actually this is a bug, I don't know why it shows up twice, but one of the interesting things about Spotter is that we can, we should be able to create somebody new here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now a couple interesting things happened there. So when it was just Harry, it offered to create a new organization because in the model of this address book, Harry is not a valid name. But the second we put a P there, now there's a first and last name, and now it'll offer to add a new person. So Harry Potter in there, and then make a new person, and then here we have Harry Potter. And then if we go back here, let's see, hold on. Did it get added? Let's see here. Oh, it actually didn't get added. That's interesting. So I'll have to fix that. But you get the idea. So now where this falls flat on its face is that, let's say, and I'll show you something else. Okay, so we have, now here, this is a model of a library. And it's like, you know, like a library in real life, except it's a little bit magical because there are things here that are physical, and there's things here that are electronic, and there's things here that are potentially abstract. So this is, let's see, so we'll open up on the right here. So this is an instance of a library. And here we have a movie. Here we have a conference. This one is a DVD. This one is a scientific paper. And then there should be, oh, and here, this one is a talk from this conference. Now, one of the things that I did is in this particular view, even though this is really, I mean, most people would consider a talk from a conference, a child of the conference, but in this particular view, it's flat. So you have things showing up like, I should have added the example, but if I added Star Wars, then it, not only would Star Wars show up as a series, but it'd also show up the individual episodes of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back. So, but what the tree does underneath is the tree maps the work, which is kind of a term of art in the library field, which is, you know, one of the interesting things of modeling this stuff is that you almost go through the feeling of what the first person to invent things that they use in libraries went through, because you realize, like, what is the abstract concept that I'm trying to model here? You know, and what are, so there's these distinctions in like library science. I don't know what the field even is, but that you have a work, which is kind of the abstract thing, and then you have a manifestation, which holds certain constraints. And I believe it's like, and then you have formats and editions and all these interesting things, which seem to not matter until you really want to model it correctly, and then they all matter. So here, so this is a physical resource, and this is actually a DVD. And so it has, so this is a Magritte form, which is not particularly interesting in this context, but so what this does is it takes not a physical thing, but it puts it inside the electronic system. So now, not only does it say that I have this DVD, but it tells me where it is. So this isn't an executable location like a URL, but now I know that I could just get up and walk 5 feet and I know where the DVD is. So it unifies a lot of things. Now let's see, I think there is, so this one here, actually, I didn't, hold on, let me see here. Oh, here's an interesting one. Okay, so this one is a photo, actually. And so it's Infant Massage by, oh, no, actually, no, that's not the right one. Where is it? Fighting for Decent Pensions. Here we go. So Fighting for Decent Pensions by Nick Efford. And in this case, the resource is a Flickr photo. So now we can go to the Flickr photo and query some things, but we can also, we should be able to go right to the, of course, it's not working because I'm doing it live. Actually, let me see. These sizes. Well, it's a model of a Flickr photo, and I can see, it's weird because I can see the URL right there. So why don't we just, we'll just go low tech here. We'll pick it out of here, and we'll stick it in an inspector. Okay. So we should be able to, as URL, let's see if we do open. And then actually, because of the limits of screen sharing, I guess I'm sharing this window and it opened in the other window, but you see, and then there's the photo that opened up. So, you know, the interesting thing about this is that this to me captures a particular area of my world that I'm interested in without arbitrary constraints, because I don't know if, I mean, the way this would work in the normal kind of user world that I understand would be that I'd have to have this link to this photo in a bookmark in a browser where I may use 3 different browsers for different things because Chrome doesn't have the features. Like just now, if I had if I saved this bookmark of this Flickr photo in Safari, and then with the anticipation of talking about it in this meeting, and then I could only use Chrome, then I have to go fiddling around through 3 different browsers to find it. So it's completely nonsense. But what this is just kind of this concept of media in general, represented. And then of course we have the same search function, like we had in the people. And then we can also, I think we should, let's see, did I implement? Let's just pretend we're doing the Alan Kay talk about like Dynabook maybe. All right, and you can create a new work there, Dynabook. So let me think. Oh, right. So the interesting thing about this now, though, is that if you go to, let's go to this scientific paper here. And so it's, the author is Nancy Alvieri. And then if we go here, the author is actually an MP person, which is out of this model of the MP address book. So there's no arbitrary distinctions, because this is not a text field in my Calibre library. This is this person. And if I knew this person well, they would have her address here and her phone numbers. I wouldn't have to take that text and then dump it into my, iPhone contacts app and call it up. And then I spelled it slightly differently so it wouldn't come up, and I'm fiddling around. This is the one and only one distinguishing of this person in my electronic world. So this is kind of some of the stuff I've been working on. And it's the same with the accounting app. And the accounting app is, let me bring something up on the accounting app. And then, so this is the accounting app, and it has, the main concept is books. And then, so we have my personal books here. And then we have our general, the general journal. And if you know a little bit about accounting. So this is just like, your average accounting app. But the difference here is that everything is live. So on this, it's going to bring me right to another domain object. And, when I click on this account, this is, the actual account with all the meta information. So, you can just kind of dive through the model just like you're diving through the physical world with no arbitrary restrictions. And then we can use things like GT's visualization library. So instead of just kind of showing the accounts as a tree, if you're interested, like a textual tree, you can show it in something a little more interesting. But then, of course, these are all live. So then it takes you right back to the account. So,
really cool.
Yeah, and then the same people that were potentially authors in the library app are counterparties to transactions in the in this app here. So I won't waste time going through one. But if I found one that was me giving or receiving money from a friend, they would just show up here and it would take them to that same one and only one object from the address book. So it's the kind of thing that I've been working on. Now, the next step for me is to make the models more automatically interactable from the UI. So one very basic way that I did that is that I created a global variable. So this, I think this was the last spotter thing I did, or did we do it? Hang on, let me do a spotter search. So if I go to address book here, and then I do a spotter search, and we'll just pick Dumbledore. So now if I go to a completely different inspector, like let's say I bought something from Dumbledore, and then I go here, and then I do results, and then this should be Dumbledore. So I just, I save, so it's very rudimentary, but it allows me to take objects and move them between the different tools. Because one of the things, the limitations in Squeak, Spiral, and GT is that I find myself where everything I need is in a tab, but there's no easy way to hook it up. Yeah. The next thing I want to do, which I the demo was in Morphic. I don't know if I could show it here, but I had a thing that was like, are you familiar with Self at all?
I know that it exists, but I don't know like the inside. So inside, yeah, I don't know Self. I have never been experienced with Self. I just know that.
I don't even know if this is running code. No, it's not loaded. All right. So, but it's so self. The idea is that the objects in the IDE that you're dealing with are a little bit more like, it's a little bit more like this experience, where these are all different objects in the IDE than this experience here. So, one thing that I had working in Morphic that I want to port to Block is to have, in addition to having the this view of a method, which is good, and as I'm sure if we had it on an instance here, like on the right, we can actually execute these methods, which is, that's pretty amazing compared to where we started with Firewall. But what I had in Morphic that I need to port to Block is that even something that takes an argument shows up as a token that you can then drag. Like, let's say, this is not a good example, but so here's maybe a better example. So this is an import from a CVS. So if we had a file reference over here as an object that was graphical, we could drag it into here and have it be the argument that then you would get the play button underneath, just like you have for unary methods that don't take arguments. So that's kind of my primary thing now, is working on the integration between all these different systems to make it more available from the GT UI. And because the problem is what happens is, like, when you're in the library and you're adding a new work, let's say, and now this time it's not a Flickr photo, it's, let's say, a YouTube video. So let me see, there was just one that I was adding. It was the closure. Oh, yes, it was this one here. So now the problem is, when you don't have that ability to drag and drop arguments, what you end up is it all ends up in the same place where you're going to add a library copy, but then the copy could come about in 10 different ways. And if you don't have some way to construct it graphically or drag it in, then you have to end up with this preamble. And now, granted, GT is pretty powerful. So I could, like, the low-tech built-in way to do this would be like create copy, and then I could indent these guys here, the different ways to create a copy, and then collapse it. So that would be the first thing, and then you could collapse that and get on to the next thing. But it's still, there's no need to embed all these things, because now it's embedding these arbitrary examples where I'm going to have to change the URL, change the ID. But because this is all versioned now, this is going to create a lot of noise in my database, because every time I change to the last YouTube video that I recorded, it's going to show up as changes in the Lepeter database. So it's just, it's not ideal. It works, and it works better than anything else I've ever seen, but we're not quite there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good synopsis of what I'm working on.
Really cool. And do you have, like, any plans to release this? Like, for example, I use also cache for my how do you say that in English? Is like contability, like expenses and this bookkeeping. And do you have any plans of releasing this software for people who has this similar idea of I don't know, breaking the boundaries between artificial boundaries between tools? For example, mixing the stuff from bookkeeping with the stuff from. Okay.
I could maybe use some advice on this. So where I am now, so there were two things. The first thing is that the model was in its infancy, and I didn't want user pressure on making it work, because I have a very specific vision of the flexibility and the level of abstraction of the model. And, like, just one thing that took me, this took forever, was that so if we just take an arbitrary transaction, I'm trying to think, do I have an example here? Let's see, I don't do good TDD either, because I don't have oh, here we go. I actually have an example here of books with pretend transactions. All right. So one of the things that took a really long time was that this concept of
Sean, can you share your screen? Do you want to share it? Sorry,
I forgot. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So this is the pane on the. Okay, good. So this is just an example books, and then so here's some transactions. So on the right here, if I go to, let's see here, these are invoices. So I don't know if it has a party. Oh, it is a transaction. Okay, good. So one of the things that took me a long time to think out is this idea of a counterparty. And the thing is that in like QuickBooks, let's say, which is the kind of the gold standard enterprise version, you have to enter you have to create kind of a vendor, they call it, for each transaction. And sometimes that makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't make sense, because a vendor is not a thing. A vendor is a role, right? So if you and I are friends, and that's a role, and then maybe maybe you create a cool piece of software, and I buy it from you, and then you're a vendor, and then maybe I sell you some fire department merchandise, and then you're a customer. So to model it as one of those things already is like inconceivably limiting. So, and maybe as friends, we go out to dinner and you Venmo me some money. Now, are you the vendor? I mean, what is that? That doesn't make any sense. So it's really this abstract idea of a counterparty, and a counterparty could be a string. If you just want to do it quick and dirty and you don't really care, you've made that decision. Like you said, sometimes the simplest thing is good enough for somebody, and you don't want to burden them with a lot of complexity. But that could also be either an organization or a person from the address book. And and then the question of whether this thing is a vendor or not is left up to our brain, which can instantly look at this and know what this transaction is about and decide whether they're a vendor or a customer or whatever. Or you could tag them that way, somehow in the model. So, but it took me months to really think this through. And, so I didn't want the pressure of people, me releasing things that were incompatible. And so, but now that the model is settling down a little bit, I'd be happy to do that with the proviso that, don't, if you expect stability, fork and be happy with the way it is. But the thing that I'm really interested on feedback on is that I don't have delusions of grandeur that Intuit or whatever, the QuickBooks company is going to be beating down my door. But I also I put a lot of work in this, and I want it to be available to people that need it for free. And I'm not that interested in corporations having access to it or utilizing it. Now, it's a little bit more principle than anything else, because realistically, it's extremely unlikely that an enterprise, other than the few that are in banking and that we use Smalltalk, is going to have somebody with the Smalltalk chops to make it worthwhile for them to steal this code. So, I've been on the programmer-facing libraries that I do. I always go MIT, but I've just in my head, I've really been going back and forth. Do I do it GPL? Do I do it lesser GPL so that the corporation can use it, but if they improve it, they're supposed to port the changes back? Or do I do it MIT with the realization that realistically, they're probably not going to use it anyway, and then I don't create problems for people that maybe want to take some of the spotter code that I showed and use it in GT or in their MIT app, and they don't have to worry about being accused of stealing it. So I've been tossing this over and over in my brain, and I don't have a good solution. So,
I had this question also, because as a hacktivist, I am more into the GPL side of licensing. But for me, there is a practical issue. I remember when I started to release Graphoscopio, the first copy of Graphoscopio, I released it under GPL. And some people inside the community told me that if I release that, people in the community was not to touch it. Like, okay, thank you, but we are not going to touch your code. Because of GPL, and it's because you have at that moment GPL got a new light for me, because you have in GPL code you have compilation. Seems kind of that's why you have GPL and LGPL, the libraries GPL, because compilation means that the way you take code from other people is by putting that code into your source code via libraries or via compiling and including that in your source code. But in the case of these live coding environments, it's really, really easy to start with, to take small snippets of others' code and put that into your libraries, because it's just extending the system. So in that case, I think that it doesn't make a lot of sense to use GPL. Not in the sense of principles, because I think that, big corporations shouldn't be taking the digital commons and use them for themselves without like putting a lot back. But in my cases, I use the license that works better for the community I want to use. That means the license that so I think that I lost my connection for a moment. Okay,
You're back.
so in my case, yeah, okay. So in my case, it's about like how can I make this to move inside the community better, and for me, that's the criteria for licensing. But in the case of Graphoscopio, what I did was that I split the work in two pieces. The first one is code and is under MIT, and the second one is interactive documentation, and that is it's even in a copy far left license. So it's kind of strange because you have like in Graphoscopy, you have this continuum between documentation and libraries. You have like this. The idea is that you don't have these frontiers also. So a document is also kind of software because it's interactive and has this data storytelling inside, and also has this idea of using libraries. But by splitting this like in two kind of different artifacts, this is software, this is documentation. Software is MIT, and documentation is copy far left under a cooperative license. I start to protect this kind of exploitation, and I create some kind of viable business model. Is related with how do you protect the commons, and
Yes.
protecting the commons means to put frontiers, and I don't think that the frontiers are pretty well defined in the case of MIT. So my case was, okay, this has not a strong protection. It's just software under MIT because it's the license that works better for the community. And this is interactive documentation and is under a copyright license. So if you want to use that software, you need to be a cooperative or a developer, an individual person. But if you want to make money and to take plus value from other people, you need to pay for that. So I think that this kind of dual licenses and dual artifacts could work in that sense. Some kind of core artifacts that is working under MIT, and some kind of derived artifact, like documentation, for example, that works under a more restrictive license. That will be my approach. I think that it could work.
And do you think there's any distinction, like what I had in my mind, and I tend to overcomplicate things, so this may, I don't know if this is workable in practice, was like all of my lower level libraries, I just do MIT because it's not like a product, you know, it's something that it's something that is designed to be incorporated into other things. And as you said, practically, anybody working on anything MIT would not be able to use it if it was GPL. And so, but I was wondering if there's a distinction between a higher level, like the accounting model is more of like an app. You know, it's something similar in functionality to a QuickBooks or a new cash. So I was wondering if there's a distinction there where at the point where it becomes something that's not going to be, it's the market is more a user, even if the user happens to be using it because they're a developer and they want to be able to extend it. I was wondering if there was a distinction, if you think there's a distinction there where who does it hurt to have the accounting thing be GPL because nobody is going to try to integrate the accounting model into GT or into Scopio, or or does that not make sense? Do you think?
I think that the core issue is that you can create some kind of license that restrict usage by people, by the kind of people that is accessing the license. So there is this theoretician of licensing. It's called Dimitri Kleiner, and Dimitri Kleiner create some kind of like I don't know, like line. So you have like copyright, copy left. Well, it's in the other way, but yeah, copyright, copy left, and this kind of line between stuff. So he proposed something that he calls copy far left.
Okay.
So in the case of copyright, you had like all rights protected.
Yep.
You have copy left, like GPL, like that. You cannot like take away the freedoms of other people to modify this work. And he creates something in the middle that is like copy just right. That is most of the Creative Commons. That is okay. You can do stuff with this. But we are not in none of those frontiers. We are considering who is the people who we are like making these provisions for. But in the case of copy far left, the core question is who. So, are you a cooperative? Are you an individual? Are you some kind of person who is like using the commons and increasing the commons,
Yes.
or not? And if not, you cannot use your or
Oh,
work.
interesting. And that's part
So,
of Copy for Left already, or you're saying that you'd like to see? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So there is this license that is called peer-to-peer license. So in the case of the peer-to-peer license, you say, okay, if you work with an organization that is like owned by its workers, you are allowed to use that. If you're an individual, you are allowed to use this. But if you are like like a big organization that makes some kind of it's about plus value. In fact, is related with who takes the plus value of the work. That's the core question of Copy for Left. And the idea is that if you take the plus value of the work without doing the work, you need to pay.
Yeah.
But if you are doing the work to share the plus value with others, you don't, because you are part of the commons.
Okay.
And I think that there is an issue with this kind of license. So for example, the Debian project Debian says that if you are using Copyfar license, you are not part of the Debian project. You cannot put the stuff in the Debian project under that license, because they are not from copyright to copyleft. They are Copyfar left.
Not compatible.
But other people says we need this kind of license, because what we have seen is that there is this expropriation of the digital commons. So there is an author called Michael Bowens, and he says that the idea is that you commoditize, like make a commodity of some part of the commons, so everybody's contributing on that, so you can create competition in the like upper level. So for example, software now is a commodity, because we have like free software, so everybody's contributing on that. And Google, Facebook, Amazon is interested in this kind of commons, because they can create a competition in the data layer. So it's like, okay, we have the infrastructure to make competition in data, to accumulate a lot of data, to enclose that data, and we need like this kind of common ground to be free for us, for everybody. But we need to put a barrier in the place that is data related. So we have like this kind of dynamics about how like big institutions are trying to create this kind of commons to expropriate that common, or to build this kind of commons, but just to create something where only they can participate. And for me, that means that we need to think about like let's say intellectual property ecosystems. Like you need to think about in a connected way. What are you creating, and how, and for who? In my case, it's even like, I don't know, I have like a kind of a big plan, kind of, in the sense that I want to use this software like Graphoscopio and the moldable tools to empower some communities, so they can be more autonomous. At the beginning, with technology, they can modify the technology by themselves. But I think that the extra part is related with economy. So we have like this division of technologies, communities, and economies. And I think that we need to bring the gap between them. So we need to create communities that can change their own technologies, so they can have different kinds of economies. So, for example, I don't know if you know this author. It's called Brett Scott, but he has he's working with hacking economy mostly. And Brett Scott says that if you want to understand money, you need to create your own money and start to talk about different kinds of DBs. So you have like currencies, like so for example, you have like time banks. If you have time banks, you are exchanging experiences. 1 hour of your time, 1 hour of my time. It's like this meeting. We cannot pay for that, in the sense that it only works if we exchange time. Or you have local currencies, like, I don't know, let's say I don't know where do you live, but let's say, I don't know, the dollar of Cincinnati. You can only use that in Cincinnati. And if you go other places, you cannot use that dollar. So that encourage some kind of flux in the city. And there is like the Brixton pound, for example, is working. I mean, there is people who has this kind of local money. And you have like Bitcoin, that is about like accumulation, or you have deflationary monies that is about exchange. So 4 kinds of money, for four kinds of economy: time, inflationary, deflationary, and local. And depending on what what do you want to do with the change, you create some kind of particular money for that. So I think that we need to bridge this kind of gap, because the question of licensing is really a reflection of the question of value and who takes advantage of the value that we are creating. And the question of who takes advantage of the value that we are creating is an economic question. And in that sense, we need to start to explore this kind of interconnected economies. So I think that there is not like a easy answer for that, but I will try to see how this software that you are creating is a vehicle for these kind of communities. So how you can, like, for example, I don't know, let's say something like, if you want to support this software, you can use it under MIT if you are this kind of person, or under blah 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 if you are not. And if you are in a, I don't know, economic stress community, you can use it for free, or you can make part of this time bank or something like that. Like it's a vehicle for exploring another forms of organizing. For me, that will be graphoscopy in a way, because we are now, I mean, graphoscopy was the software that I used to learn Faro and Smalltalk and programming. So it has a lot of like errors and stuff like that. But for me, it's a vehicle of exploration about community organization, because the core question is how we can change the tool that change us. That's the core question. And now with GT and with the upcoming Faro, I think that the infrastructure is there to start to provide services using this software. And that will be my approach. So software is free, services are not. Software is under MIT, documentation is under a copy file license. If you are part of the commons building population, use it. If you are not, you need to pay. And if you are an organization that wants services based on graphoscopy or data storytelling or education for that kind of audiences, I have a company that make consultancy on these services. So it's more a vehicle to start to showcase these kind of ideas.
Gotcha.
And also he has this kind of frontier. So inside the community, we explore these questions about like licensing and stuff like that. Sure. So it's kind of a like huge path. I don't have something like concrete to show you.
Well, I think the whole world's struggling with these questions. It's very much unsettled. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I don't know how much time you have, but if you want, I've been using GT now for quite a while. If there's any like either general or specific questions you have that are either blocking you or would help you better, accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, I'd be happy to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I would like to. So, what's my idea? My idea is that GT or graphoscopy or Faro-based tools should be like a bridge between workflows and between communities. Okay. So at this moment, we have like this hedgehog like place to make workshops that start in real time with note taking. And then that works really well for us if we are making just a workshop.
And I'm just because probably I very minimally understand Hedgedoc just from playing around with it a little bit during the data week with the link you sent me. But it's like a Google Docs, multiple user
kind of, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So it's nearly Google Docs. You have like a shared place to take notes, but they are wrote in Markdown. That's the issue, and it works really well if you are like making these like, I don't know, quick notes. But it starts to stress when you want to, I don't know, like modularize the content or make it searchable. Like, okay, I need to go back, I don't know, 10 workshops behind. What was there? So we start to combine different infrastructure. We start with Hedgehog for real time and TiddlyWiki for non-real time or offline. And I would like to have like this bridge made with GT that create this kind of like fluent workflow between those technologies. So in the case of HedgeDoc, you can export Markdown. It's really easy. I have like a small library that does that. It's inside Graphoscopio utils, and you can just like import from HedgeDoc. And I would like to split that into pieces and create like a TiddlyWiki from that, like mix these two tools.
So the HedgeDoc would be just like a scratch pad, and then once you're done with that particular one, you do something that incorporates it into the more fleshed out thing that contains the history and the searchability and all that.
Yeah.
And TiddlyWiki seems to be a good tool for that. Second part, okay.
Yeah. So in the case of TiddlyWiki has this idea of, it's kind of similar of what you're thinking about, not imposing like artificial restrictions, and try to make like small snippets of content like combinable, like you can mix and remix them. So there is this Jeremy, the author of TiddlyWiki, talks about like an algebra of content. So he wants to create something that allows him to like make this kind of algebra of content. And I think that in a sense is similar to what you are doing. You are creating this kind of place for an algebra of content, because you are like creating something that allows remixing and factorization, see the common and see the different and combine them in a powerful way. So in that sense, I think that what you are doing is pretty similar to TiddlyWiki, at least in spirit. So what I would like to do is to create this kind of mixture. So we start to create some kind of, I don't know, so some path in HedgeDoc, and I like invoke a command in GT. So I import that content inside GT. That will be like really easy. And after that, I want to modularize that content and export that to TiddlyWiki. I create this kind of bridge between these two tools. And I think that it works because I don't think that the people in the community is going to start to use GT right now. They are not like so nerdy. Like it's like, okay, but I have HedgeDoc already, and I just need to do text. Why I need all these paraphernalia of live coding and stuff? It's not there now. But if we were, this is the tool to bridge these two tools, they are interested. And I think that works better. If you want to put something there, something new, you need how that connects with the stuff that they are already using.
Right.
So I have some kind of workflow if you want, and maybe I can make some kind of particular questions about that, or some kind of experience. But I only have like, I don't know, hand webbing. I don't have like this prototype, but I could say okay, this is what I imagine. So let's say that I can share my screen. I don't know if, but there is nothing to show there. But anyway, maybe it could help. So let me just I will just.
And while you're looking it up, I'll just say, for me, the interesting thing is that, like, once I have this interconnected model between text and by the way, at some point, I need to bridge this with Lepeter. But the problem is that right now, the annotation parser is not really made for extensibility. So I can go in and monkey patch it, but I'm just gonna wait until they make an extension mechanism for that. And the other thing is that there needs to be a way to link to arbitrary objects that are not Lepeter objects, and we don't have that yet. So those are two things I'm waiting for. But the thing, like for me, like let's say I said, okay, I want to do this TiddlyWiki thing too. What I don't understand is once I have these interconnected models, it becomes this kind of it's like everything is connected to everything else. How do I export a paragraph to TiddlyWiki that contains a link to a transaction in the accounting model? I just don't know, because once everything is alive, it's like an organism. You can't, like, how do you cut one part out and put it over here? It's not going to be alive anymore.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, I think that you should like export everything to TiddlyWiki. You cannot export as
Gotcha.
a
The
small
whole object graph,
place.
like
Yeah, like that's my everything again. So I will try to share this. Just let me show you. Maybe it's going to work. I don't know. Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
yep,
A little bit or
yep,
everything?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's working. Okay, so what I would like to do is to have just let me do you see like the part that is like so I am clicking now in the GT
Yep,
tool. Do you okay? Do you
yep.
see all the screen or only is like
I see GT and a Firefox browser.
okay, cool. And do you have like do you see like the playground and the note and the Lepiter
Yep.
icons or is like it's
Yeah, I see the
complete? Okay.
toolbar. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So my idea is that you are like creating, I don't know, let's say that you're creating some kind of like I don't know. I have like a place here. You guys just going to create like this place that is I don't know Shan test. I have like this hedgehog document here, and I will just create anything. So yeah, let's wait a little bit, and so I like. And I have a lot of paragraphs, and those paragraphs has like links to other documents. Like let's say I'm going to create another one, like this one. Oops. Let's say that I'm just doing this. So link. Oops. Link and okay. So I have a like paragraph. Okay. So I have like this. And what I would like to do is to create like a Lepiter node. Let's say this one. It's okay. It's like here. Okay. So let's say that I create some kind of Lepiter playground. Like let's say here. And I write like something like I don't know, like something like I think that I have something like this hedgehog. Yeah, hedgehog import from URL. I think I don't remember the syntax. Let me just new. Yeah, import. I think that is URL. Yeah, and I can put just this.
You know, one thing that is helpful is if you click in hedgedoc there in the class name.
Yeah. Okay, let me just here.
Yeah, click the class name, and then do primary whatever the prime. Are you on Mac or Windows?
Okay, so
did you do Command B?
Okay, Command B.
Command. Yeah, if you're on Mac, it's Command B. It may be Control B if for other operating systems. I don't know, or Alt B. One of the modifiers. There you
Oh,
go.
cool.
Yeah, so now you can,
okay.
while you're, it's a little easier.
Oh, okay. Oh, really cool. So I have this path, and now I can do this like, oops. Why is not okay? Control G. And now I want to import contents. Why I cannot? Okay. So let's say that this is called I don't know test, and I want to import contents. Is import contents or something like that. Retrieve contents. So this just gets like the whoa. Okay, there is some book or something like yeah.
Of course, anytime you're doing anything live, it's
yeah
guaranteed to fail.
Yeah, so I will try just here. Just let's try again. It should work anyway, but retrieve contents. Maybe maybe it's not going to work. But anyway, the idea is that I can just take the
you need a period after the first statement.
It's not working. Yeah, and I can like get this markdown, and I would like to parse the markdown.
You need to put a period after the first statement.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
No problem. You may not have rerun it after you did the variable name, so the test may be unbound. But now it'll work if you do that snippet, probably.
Yeah, I will try. Yeah, it seems that it's working. Okay, so I have this this string, and this string is the just this.
Yep.
What I would like to do is to parse this as a markdown to go like a unstructured document, and to start to split this document, because when you start to take notes, we start to create this kind of subtitles and more content, another subtitle and more content and stuff like that, and we start to split after that to create some kind of let me show you. So at some point we create this called Graphoscopedia, and Graphoscopedia is just like a Wikipedia for the local community that is based on TiddlyWiki. It's done with TiddlyWiki. Why is not loading? Okay, so the idea is that you have like this kind of, the tiddlers are I think that they are like really flexible. So it's like it's loading now, but the idea is that you can like have this kind of like hyper cards, in the sense that not hyper card in the old-fashioned software sense of the word, but the idea that you can have like this kind of like small cards that are hypertextual and are programmable. So in Wiki you have like these tiddlers, they're called tiddlers, and these tiddlers are like small units of content, and they are like borderless in the sense that you define just a little bit of metadata and that's it. Just let me show you.
So a tiddler is a section of the card.
Yeah, it's a piece of content inside the wiki. So for example, let me just show you something like, I don't know, like GT, for example. I'm taking some documentation about GT, and I am doing this inside TiddlyWiki. But at some point, I would like to create this glamorous toolkit. Maybe it started with notes from the workshop that we're going to do on the last day of this month. And we start to explore GT, and I would like to connect that GT real-time hedge document with this glamorous toolkit, like Tiddler. That would be my idea. And the nice thing about the TiddlyWiki is that you can export all the tiddlers like as JSON. So you get like a JSON representation of all the content in the wiki, or you can export just a little, like I want just to export this one. I want to just this particular one, and each one has like an address. There is in fact a Node.js powered server for TiddlyWiki, but I would like to avoid Node.js as much as I can. I think that in fact there is a Ruby powered a really small also server for TiddlyWiki. So what I would like to have is something like that inside Faro. So I can like start in HedgeDoc and end in TiddlyWiki and connect them both, and use this Faro-powered TiddlyWiki server to create wikis or tiddlers or whatever I want for the community. And for that, I just need to from Faro create this kind of JSON representation, JSON representation of the tiddlers. Is the only thing that I need. So I think that is kind of easy, but I don't know the server part. I can share with you. I have this script here, but I can mail you the script that is like a minimal server done in Ruby for TiddlyWiki. And what I would like is to have something like that made in Faro, so I can take like data from any place and make that data become a tiddler and interconnect that data in a different way and make that searchable and stuff like that. That would be my.
And the server, in other words, you would self-host the TiddlyWiki instead of having it on the what is the server? I'm not exactly sure about the server.
Oh yeah, the idea, the Ruby server, what it does is like, So TiddlyWiki is not, I mean, it's a wiki, but it's not like a client server wiki. It runs only in your machine,
Ah,
and you start to
okay.
modify like HTML file. So it's an HTML file that knows how to read and write itself, and is working yeah, like as a wiki, and you put snippets of text or JavaScript code or plugins, and you start to extend the content or the functionality of the wiki. So it's really good in the sense that there is not like a big frontier between a content creator and a behavior creator. You
Mhm.
can start creating content, and after that creating filters and some automatizations, and after that you end with a wiki. In fact, I have one wiki here. I will try to show you.
I think the reason I was
And
confused was that in that URL there was a host name. So, but so that was that an
yeah,
export or that wasn't
okay.
local, right?
Let me show you. Yeah. That's the page where I am putting the wiki context. But I think that I can show you this. Just let me. So this really is a fossil repository. I will show
Mhm.
you. So the idea is that in Fossil you can host files they are called inversioned files. So if I go here, so we have this project that was related with created like indie websites, sites that are for your community and yourself and are not like depending on big tech.
Mhm.
And the idea was that we start to create this place. Let me show you. Um, And this is with an extra project that I have that is called Brea. Brea is an static site generator, kind of,
Mhm.
made with Faro and powered by Fossil. So
Oh,
you
cool.
can like versionate your sites, and you can like put your sites like online, and you can use like really cool HTML5 templates for your sites and stuff like that. And we start to document how this site is created by using Brea itself. So the idea that is that this site is made with Brea, and all these are just static files that are written in Markdown and exported via Pandoc to HTML. And the stuff that is bridging, like making a bridge between those places, is Brea. So, for example, we start writing in a HDoc some kind of notes, these notes, for example, and after that, we take that HDoc that produce Markdown, and we import that into a fossil repository, and we put that also as a HTML file and apply some mustache templates to create this kind of like nice looking place. So the idea is that what we have different sources of data. We integrate that into data dictionaries. We use templates in Mustache, and we produce an HTML page. And
Mhm.
Brea is the arrows. Brea, I mean, these places already are, I don't know, in Internet Archive or in Flickr or whatever. Um, and Brea knows how to take those data sources and create dictionaries, and how to combine them with Mustache templates to create HTML pages. So the idea is that Brea is this arrow, and this kind of arrow is more into connecting stuff that creating like a big like, I don't know, CMS or something like that. And we were working with this Brea software and making some workshops. And at some point, we start to think about like dynamic content. So we create this kind of let me show you. Is this glossary. So we have this because this was written while we were like making the workshops. So we start with taking notes in real time, and after the workshop, I start to organize those into this kind of content, and we start to create this kind of like the glossary. But at some point, we need to modularize this kind of content and to make it searchable. And because we have this static site generator, search what not like really strong. We could implement something to using Luna and some JavaScript stuff, but we decide to go to the TiddlyWiki route. So this is the same glossary, but instead of being a static page, now it is this TiddlyWiki site. I will show you the glossary. Just let me go back. So the idea is that Faro is behind this connection of workflows and needs. We are not trying to create this kind of big, huge tool to do everything. Is more mostly about how we can use Faro to connect the needs that the community has. So, for example, the community needs a web place, but that web place is more I just lost my connection. Sorry.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Yeah, I'm back. Okay, I will just kick my old self. Okay. Yep. Okay, so the idea is that this place, this is the same glossary. Let me show you, but it's now made of titlers. So we have like this. This is our methodology. That is wax on, wax off. The idea of going
you have to
back
share
to
your
the
screen
same.
again.
I'm sharing my screen. Okay, just let me show you. I don't know. Is when I try to share my screen, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe too much for the connection right now.
To share my screen. The
While you're working on that, when you're doing the real-time notes in HedgeDoc, is that typically one person responsible for that, or are multiple people doing that at the same time, or is that possible?
Aishan, something was happening with my connection, and I think that it start to I don't know to break when I share my screen. I don't know why. So anyway, I will show you in the chat the link to the glossary. We could try also other platforms like I don't know like Zoom or something like that. But just to show you quickly, here in the chat, you can click like the. So that was like that was like the evolution of the glossary. So you see some kind of tabs. So this wax on, wax off is the methodology we use. We try to like make this kind of reflexive practice. And if you start to click on the tabs in the left, you can see.
I'll share my screen, so just in case for the video,
oh,
see
where cool. Yeah.
All right, there we go. All righty.
Okay. So if you start to click on the tabs, you are going to see like oh cool that's like the glossary of terms we're working with, and that was the evolution of the static site glossary, because
okay, now you have
Yeah, so it's searchable place and it's more modular, and you can like break the stuff and you can work offline. And if you see behind, I will show you the next place. Just let me just copy the URL so you can share there. Let me just So go to this place now. Yep. So this is the fossil repository behind this wiki. So you can go.
Let's see. I can make link address.
Yep. That's like the timeline of the repository. And can you click on files, please?
Files.
Yep. And in the tree view. Yep. So if you click on docs, for example, you can see like in Spanish, yes, you can see like the docs that are part of this website. You can see they have like a Markdown format and an HTML format, and all this is done with Brea, the software that I was like programming for that. And is this kind of a static site generator that knows how to import a template and to apply via mustache that template to content that comes from Markdown and create the HTML variant of that using Pandoc. So it's this kind of connecting stuff. And if you see in the URL that I am going to pass you like right now, I will show you. So go to S again to the parent folder.
This one?
To docs. No, docs is fine,
okay.
please. Yeah, and Spanish. Yep. And there is a folder down that is called like mini wiki. So click there, and you have this titlers.stone. Yeah. So those titlers.stone is the stone serialized set representation of the JSON file that you get when you export TiddlyWiki as a set of JSON tiddlers. So that gives me this kind of diff-friendly storage format to store all the wiki contents and to share those wiki contents with other people. And also, if you go like to this place, I will share the URL with you via the chat place, like here. If you go to this URL that I just paste, you can see what Fossil calls the unversioned files. So it is that you can have inside the Fossil repository, you can have like, I don't know, raster files or I don't know, PNGs or stuff like that. And you have, if you see, there is a place that is called like indie web -brea in the that's the TiddlyWiki. So it's just an HTML file. But because it has a lot of JavaScript and CSS and a lot of stuff, and I don't care about that stuff, I publish that file as an unversioned file inside Fossil, and the versioning part is happening with this tilders.stone file. So it's a way to create a really Fossil. I don't know. It weighs like 3 megabytes or something like that. The binary with the web server, with the versioning, with all the stuff. And if I want to pass the website with all its history to someone else, I just pass the Fossil site. And if I want just a snippet of like not a snippet, but kind of like a view of the site at some moment in time, I can just go to that place in the Fossil repository and create this kind of a snapshot for the site. So it's a lot of small technologies connected together that support the workflow of the community. So we start with workshops, we create this kind of nodes in HedgeDoc, we import them inside this Fossil repository, convert them from Markdown to other format, apply templates to them, create this kind of nice place. And if we need this kind of live writing with searching and with yeah, not live in the sense of real time, but with more functionality. We use TiddlyWiki to support the extra functionality that nor fossil or just plain HTML supports. So the idea is try to, so for example, TiddlyWiki is really cool for offline writing, but it doesn't have like like uh, timelines. You cannot store the history of the wiki because it's not in the wiki by default.
Mm-hmm.
And Fossil has this really neat support for storing history, and but it doesn't have I don't know, dynamic HTML. So you combine TiddlyWiki with Fossil. One weighs, I don't know, 2 MB, and the other one weighs 3 MB. And in 5 MB, you have like a dynamic site creator with search and history and collaboration. But you don't go to the root of most of the, like, I don't know, over complex technology. It's just combining simple technology that you get that. And we try to combine that simple technology by using um, Faro and live coding, because that gives us this sense of, yeah, liveness and modifiability. Uh, so if you see at the beginning of the Bria book, we talk about the static site generators and this trendy topic. You have, like, I don't know, like 300 or 400 static site generators now. Like places, it's a really like booming market in the States and in Europe. And you have like you pick your language, pick your stack, and you are going to find I don't know, Go powered static site generator that use Node.js. Just pick your stack, and you are going to find something in that stack that is made for static site generators. But it's over complex. It's like, okay, it's about the static sites and it's about versioning. Why we need all this complexity?
And the funny thing
can
is,
use
even the static site generator is a dramatically pared down in complexity from the WordPress with the themes and this. And I mean, it's like it's just unbelievable, the accidental complexity.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's just okay. Let's see what are the data sources. Let's see how we can convert them into dictionaries, apply a template, and create a site. And if you need like dynamic functionality, let's look for that dynamic functionality in the JavaScript ecosystem. And in our case, it was okay. So we need Faro to make this workflow, Fossil to versionate and publish, and TiddlyWiki for the dynamic part. And it's like 4 technologies. All of them are really, really simple. We don't have, for example, we have stuff that the people who is using Git doesn't have, or need to pay something to have it. Like this idea of, I mean, publishing is just updating the HTML unversioned file in the case of TiddlyWiki or any resource. It's just a command. It's that. And version is just making a commit. And because you have an embedded web server inside Fossil, you don't need an extra web server. If you have a place where you can like put Fossil repositories, you have all your website, and that's it. You don't need anything extra. But again, it's this idea of the overcomplication. For me, it's related with resources. It's like the global north has the time and the resources to be wasteful. Like, let's invest a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money into simplifying stuff. It's like, yeah, why why to invest all that effort into making stuff simple by making it complex? I don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
and here in the global south, we need to be like more creative. We don't have all those resources, so we need to go for the like agile, smart route. And in our case, what's the minimal stuff that solves the issue? Because we don't have a lot of resources to waste.
Yeah. And I think, it's interesting because it's almost, you're almost forced to do the right thing when you don't have that incredible overabundance of resources. And what I have a very painful reminder of that is that I wrote and like an intranet business site that was it was like PHP and MySQL and all this MySQL. It was before I did before I ran into small talk. And it seemed to be okay when I made it, but the maintainability was a nightmare because there were all these complicated technologies that I didn't fully understand and didn't control. So things would happen, like the site would be working perfectly, but then all of a sudden my shared web host that they were using would upgrade PHP. And it had all these different rules and security and this and that. Things that were working wouldn't work, and there was no way to install the old PHP. And I didn't. So it was like, there's like these little time bombs. The complexity, even if you don't, we won't feel it now because it's all new and fresh and exciting, and there's teams supporting it. We'll feel it in 10 years through BitRot when people have moved on and you don't have the accessibility. We can't, it doesn't have the liveness and the directness and the dynamic nature to dig in and fix it myself. And it's so complex that I would never be able to figure it out anyway. And there's nobody supporting it because it's 10, 15-year-old technology. So, I think we're all going to find out that this is unworkable eventually, but you're setting yourself up on the front end not to get into that position, which is good.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think that what I would like is something that allows us to address this kind of. I think that we are forced to be clever. It's like we don't have resources to waste, so we are forced to be clever by combining these kind of like alternative stacks. And what I would like to have is let's say a publishing workflow for workshops and for community. It's about community memory. That's the stuff that I want to empower. So the issue is that we have like these ways of meeting, real time, non real time. We need search. We need like historicity, this sense of what happened, I don't know, 10 workshops ago. And we need this like community memory empowerment by choosing and connecting simple technologies. And what I would like is to devise some kind of workflow that allow us to for example, start in, at this moment, this is like I don't know, like you are using like humanware to connect all those places, because it's me running the scripts, downloading the HedgeDoc, adding them to Fossil, making them a tiddly wiki from the HedgeDoc for the original Markdown. It's like humanware all the time. But the idea is that that's what we are like talking about, this wax on, wax off methodology from the Karate Kid. It's like, okay, you need to have this kind of reflexive, repetitive practice. So at some moment you're going to, I don't know, kick the bad guys, but you start with just waxing. So the idea that we like iterate over the same problem, but from a different place. It's like some kind of a spiral methodology. So now we are like mixing all this stuff. I think that is a clever mix in the sense that it's like, HedgeDoc plus Markdown plus Fossil plus Faro, and that's it. Plus TiddlyWiki, like 5 stuff, but it's only 5, and they are like kind of cleverly built.
Right.
But there is a lot of friction for the non-technical people. Like I can do all this stuff by myself with the help of Faro, but what I would like to do is like you launch a Lepiter notebook. You like say to the I don't know, some click button or something, like you define, okay, this is the HedgeDoc associated with this snippet of Lepiter or this document or this page, and you import that, and you say, okay, now I want this page wikified in a way, like wikified, like as tiddlers, and now I want to them version it into Fossil or export it as Stone or made them as JSON. Like you have all this transformation between information for the different views that you need in the community. That's what I would like to work with, and in that I don't know, exploration to see if for me Graphoscopio, now that Lepiter is here, could be like a bundle of plugins for Lepiter. Is something that personalizes the Lepiter experience, kind of in a similar way as Doom Emacs or Spacemacs personalized Emacs. You have like raw Emacs and you have Doom Emacs, and Doom Emacs is this kind of bundle of scripts, plugins behind or above that built on top of Emacs. So my idea will be something like that. Like I want, because in our workflow, like storytelling has like the central place. So it's like we are going to meet and we are going to take notes on this workshop, and we are building a document because it's about like community memory. but I want to have this kind of resilient, interactive community memory. That's my idea. By mixing these tools and by like personalizing Lepiter to support the workflow in a less like clumsy way, because now it's mostly myself making the is exploring these kind of scenarios, but yeah, there is a lot of I don't know, rogue places everywhere, and I would like to smooth the transition between the tools, and yeah, that will be like my approach. And maybe it's something that I would like to explore with you in the no so distant future. Like, I don't know, maybe sending some mails about this is my idea, this is the technology, I don't know, the Ruby server, but I would like the Faro server of the same, like the equivalent Faro server of those Ruby snippets or something like that. And yeah, I would like to explore that with you if you are willing to. It would be really nice to have to.
Oh yeah. No, I'm very interested in what you're doing, and I want it to succeed. So your hello world will be, you write hello world in HedgeDoc, press a button, and then it appears in Tiddlywiki.
That would be yeah, that would be like my hello world, like that.
And I think GT is designed, because what you could do is you could have a prepared GT image that presents as it's not GT. It's just this subsection of what you're exposing that is relevant to what you're doing, but maybe there's that little curious like button somewhere that gives you access to the full environment for people that are interested in that. But you could, I think my understanding is you would create your own home screen, so it wouldn't even go to the full GT home screen with the Git tool and the Lepiter and all that. You could just have your home screen with your buttons, and that's the first exposure. And then if they want to explore, the whole thing is right there, for those of us that are interested in that.
Yeah, that would be like a really cool experience to bring to these people that is more focused on storytelling and community memory and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, because the thing that GT is so different than everything else is that in Rome, let's say, Rome is an outlining app, and it's like a really good outlining app. People love it. But one thing that I see people doing in screencasts is they'll say, well, we want to have metadata on this particular node. And then the way they do metadata is they just write like date, colon, and then they write a date. And then they do like author, colon, and then they might have a tag page. But I mean, so what they're doing is they're reinventing the crappiest typed object model imaginable, which is that now something is going to have to come along. Like you had the opportunity to capture the domain knowledge that this particular object always has an author or often has an author. And what is an author? But you just kind of like wrote it on the back of a napkin. So now at some point, when this thing gets big enough, it's going to be and that's what people start to complain about is the searchability. But if you, so what that is if there was a domain object under there, because what you want to do is like, you want the note to be a kind of a UI on, like, let's say you're taking notes on a presentation that you're watching. You want that note to be a UI on a presentation object, or a presentation object with the bottom part, their notes, but it like pre-links it so that every note you take has a source link back to the presentation. And one of the interesting levels that I want to put in, and I'm just waiting for a couple things in Lepiter, is a dynamic meta model. So
cool.
What I want to do is like, because one of the things is that I really love self because it's prototype based. A class meta model, a class-based meta model is very heavyweight, in my opinion, when you don't have unique behavior. So for instance, I'm listening to a presentation, or I'm watching and I just made up what a presentation is, or I'm watching a screencast, or I'm reading a book. To me, all those, like in that library model I showed, those are all authored works, because I don't really care. From a behavioral perspective, I'm not going to necessarily treat the screencast differently than the presentation. It's just a question of, it's nice to know that, because at some point there may be a time where I say, well, what I'm calling a presentation is really like this, this abstract thing. So it doesn't have behavior, but a screencast has a link back to a YouTube video. So now I need a behavior to open that video, right? But I don't want to decide all that up front. So what I want to have is a prototype thing to say, like, this is a template that gives you certain attribute fields, but you don't have to create a class and like create instance variables. All you do is just name the fields. You can give type information if you want to. It's not like required, but just to help you in the UI part of the creation. And then if you ever need a class because you want to create behavior in GT, you click it and it upgrades that dynamic meta model to a full class where now you can write methods and stuff like that. So, and that will be an interesting bridge too, because having to create, especially because the refactoring tools aren't exposed in GT right now. So to create a class with one field, you have to create a class, the instance variable, the getter, the setter, and all you want to do is put it like save a damn string. It's like a lot of effort.
Yeah, in fact, now that you talk about like this idea of this kind of minimal extension, I remember in the case of TiddlyWiki, but I think that is kind of aspiring. Of course, yeah, we need to think about what that means in the world of GT. But you have like the tiddler that has like kind of a minimal data. You have title and content. That's it. Well, creator and creation, but this kind of metadata. But you have some kind of data dictionary. And in that data dictionary, you can put whatever you want.
Yeah.
And after that, you create scripts that know how to read those data dictionaries and to do stuff. And those scripts are just JSON. And because JavaScript. And because a tiddler can be content or JavaScript, by mixing those two, by mixing the tiddler with metadata that you just create, and the JavaScript that knows how to read those metadata and how to automatize or mix them in a way. Oh, I lost your mic. Okay.
No, I was talking to my wife. I just put myself on mute for a minute.
Okay, cool. So the idea is that you just have like this idea, like the tiddler, the data dictionary for that tiddler, and the JavaScript scripts that manipulate those data dictionary that you are just creating in an emergent way. And it's a really, really like way of adding behavior to the wiki by adding metadata and ways to manipulate that metadata.
Yes.
So something like that will be like really nice in the case of, for example, Repeater pages. So you have a page, is the core page, but you have like kind of the similar way that you create this you drag from the bottom and start to create like code. Let's say that you have some kind of tab or something like that, and you drag from the bottom, but this is not code with metadata, and you start just to define this dictionary.
Yeah, and right, because just take the presentation idea. So YouTube, like a presentation idea, Repeater is going to store the time and the timestamp for when I created the note. But that's not actually what matters in that case. I probably want to know the date the presentation was given, or the date that I watched it. Maybe I watched it recorded, or maybe both. Because then I might want to say 10 years from now, what was that talk that I listened to? It was sometime between like 2018 and 2020. But if all I have is the timestamp when I made the note, then that doesn't help any. It doesn't help it. And if I wrote, date : and then a date, that's nice. But what if on another one I wrote publishing date, and on another one I did the date in the European format, and another one I used dashes instead of slashes because nothing is a live object, and now it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, it's true. For me, the idea of having this kind of like custom data dictionaries for Repeater pages or objects, I don't know. Yeah. Page is an object. I mean, I don't know what's the level of granularity. I think that the page provides a good level of granularity. So you have the page, you have the custom data dictionary for the page, and that's it. You don't need anything else. And from that, you start to create this kind of prototype-oriented extension by having a place that knows how to read those data dictionaries and how to operate on them. And at some point, because they are data dictionaries in Faro and in GT, they can be objects. So they can have like behavior, but you don't need the behavior inside the data dictionary. You can just copy like the TiddlyWiki model. So the Lepeter notebook will be, these kind of fields that you can extend. Okay, I'm back online, I think. Yeah. So I just lost the connection a little bit. So the idea is that you have like these kind of data dictionaries that you can extend on demand, because you need to have the publishing time, you need to have the viewing time, you need to have your comments about a particular timestamp, stuff like that. And you start to create these kind of data dictionaries. And you have a place for Lepeter plugins that are blocks. So in the case of Brea, I did something like that. So the idea is that Brea has, I think that I call something like transformations or something like that. The idea is that you have page data, but you want to read, so you have in Markdown, you have these YAML headers where you can like put metadata on demand about a page. So you have the content of the page, the metadata of the page, and the metadata is just a YAML object. And I want to store functionality inside a Brea site. So the issue is that with Brea, I was unable to store functionality, but I start to store functionality, at least in a prototype, as blocks. So I have blocks, and I have data inputs, and those blocks over those data inputs create transformations. And you have ways to connect those data blocks. Like, okay, I need to process this kind of output. I need these data inputs and these blocks in the Faro blocks, like functionality. And you use these Faro blocks to create a workflow. And what's emergent was not like, I didn't need to create a class or whatever. It's just data dictionaries plus blocks, named blocks. Like, okay, this query operates on these arrays, and create that kind of output. And that output is the input of this other block. And that was it. So maybe something like that could work for the idea of an extensible data object that just has data dictionaries and scripts.
It's and that also, I'm just, it's interesting to see. You may be able to do like a custom snippet type once it's a little bit more extensible, that it's like a Faro snippet, but it's like a Faro block or function or whatever. And then you declare like how many arguments, like you declare the kind of the way you input and output, and then you'd be able to link to it, because each snippet has an identifier, it has a UID. So you might be able to have a server that links to that snippet of code. I don't know. So I'm sure there's many ways you could do it, but
yeah.
And I don't think I can show it, but because I think I threw away the image. But I did this thing in GT where I did for the library citation. Let me just see if I can find it. I did a custom. Is this the one? Yeah, here it is. Okay, hold on. I did. Okay. Let me see if I can share this. I did a little spike on that library model that we're looking at. And let me see. Twitter videos are always awful quality. Let me see if I can. Oh, this is horrendous. Okay, but I'll just keep it at this scale. Hold on.
Okay, you need to share your screen now.
Yeah, hold on one second. I'm just. Let me see. Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can make this bigger. I'm always shocked at how awful the quality of Twitter videos are. So hopefully you can see something. But okay, so what this is it's a quote, and then so the question is, where did the quote come from? And so this is a custom annotation inside GT. So let me go back to the beginning here. It's kind of in the middle. So we start with, okay. So just like you do for a GT class, there's a GT citation. And then the autocomplete is actually the works in that library that I mentioned before. and then you tell it, for this, it's a video. So that for the location type, we're going to use the duration, which is just an index, the amount of time into the video. And I just use a simple number to be the number of seconds. And then when you click on that annotation, it actually opens the video up to that start time. So, it's just a little example of there's no limit to kind of what you can add to Lipitor. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is that it's it's turtles all the way down. So, all right, this might be a good point to stop. We're coming on 2 hours. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But this was. Did you find this interesting, helpful?
Yeah, and really helpful. So thank you. Yeah, I think that I don't know, gives me a sense of possibility and also like direction. So I will try to write something about what I would like to do. Hopefully, it will be also like there is an issue with me in the sense that I am not like a professional programmer. I learn Faro by myself, and I have a lot of gaps. And I think that I don't have like the programmer mindset. For example, I don't start with tests. It's not like, for me, it's strange. So
I don't. So this is the thing, and this is like heresy in the programming world. But the thing is that tests are good when you know what you want. Okay, and for me, the type of work that we're talking about is sometimes so far out of the ordinary paradigm that I would spend all my time rewriting tests because I don't know what I want yet. So for stuff that is like, I'm writing a name parser, I'm going to start with tests because there's, I'm going to support these 30 variations of name input, and I can just put them in one at a time and add a test. But when we're talking about how do we create an infrastructure for the global South resources to what's the test? Like, you're gonna you would spend the irony of it is that for you to set up like a Selenium WebDriver to drive it through Chrome at the UI level would be the thing that you're trying to avoid in the software, would be the test harness, right? So I've just developed a sense, and people would argue with me over the years of when I need to test. And the name parser came up because it was the last one. It was because I knew that every change I made to the parser was going to break a case that was already supported. And I knew exactly the input I wanted to support. So I started with tests. But with this library stuff, there's no way I would ever start with tests because I would spend all my time stressing out about how to test it. Once I know what I wanted to do, and there are little parts in there that I did. I dropped down into test because the friction of the pain of changing a certain area of it, I knew that I needed to get it under test, and it was stable enough to not waste my time, changing tests. So I go in and out, and I fully believe in TDD, but I think there are times when it's okay to, because the ultimate thing, the aim is to quickly get to the initial result and be able to change with confidence. And so if the TDD is actually preventing me from getting to one or both of those, then it's kind of it's betrayed its significance. So I go in and out. And what we could do is, if you hit a pain point, we could jump on quickly and like do a pair session, and I could just, because I've been using Faro for 10 years and GT for now I think about a year. So just watching me work may be helpful just to see the workflow. Not that I'm like the best, but I just have some facility with it because I've been doing it a long time. So, if you hit a spot where you just don't know how to, you're just like, I don't know how to use the GT tools to best accomplish this particular thing. We could just, jump online and spend 15, 20 minutes.
Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. I will just be asking in the channel stuff like, for example, how to create a Lipitor DB and how to erase it. Now is my question. And stuff like that, but I think that I can solve that in the channel. But the stuff that really helps me will be like to see you, because as I am not a programmer, I don't have like this kind of mindset, and I don't care. I like to be able to think outside the testing, driven development. I share your view. Like, okay, this is about like making changes with confidence, not about a dogma. So what I'm trying to tell you is that maybe if I share code with you, it's not like well done code, like it's like, yeah, like crappy code, but my idea will be to have this possibility to say, okay, this is my repository of whatever. I need to do this stuff, but I have a problem here. Let's meet and try to see how your workflow to approach this kind of problem will be.
Yeah.
But it's just in advance about my like crappy coding. But yeah, that's what I have.
Oh, listen, and again, it's programming is a tool, So if yeah, my aim is for beautiful code, but I write crappy code all the time, because sometimes it's important. One of the things also is that when sometimes I have a bodily or a feeling sense of where I need to go, but I can't see it. I can't see it in code, and I can't see it even in the UI. Like people say, oh, well, just pretend you're the user and just like draw it. But sometimes I don't even know what that looks like. And so I just have to just start writing really crappy code until I know enough about where I'm going because, like I copy paste methods, I do it all the time. And I put a flag in there that says, this was copy pasted. So if there's a third one, I don't, copy paste it to a third and a fourth one. But because for me to figure out the abstraction of code for a code that I'm going to throw away tomorrow is like, it's like a waste of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that. I really like it. Thank you. Thanks a lot, because yeah, I am like a self-made Faro programmer, and I am the only one that I know in Colombia. So it's really difficult for me to have this kind of sense of and in a live coding environment, you need to see someone else. It's not like you cannot just read. You need to see someone else. So I have a lot of
like Tudor says, it's the IDE is a language now. So it's the way to get productive is to learn the language of the IDE, and that is not something that is, like you said, doing it in a chat is the dead form of that, and watching somebody do it is the live form. So yeah.
Yeah, so let's do that. I really like I don't know. Thank you for this meeting and this opportunity, and let's do it. Yeah, I really
Cool.
enjoyed the meeting, and I think that
yeah, me too.
So,